ensuring we all get out of the of COVID-19 and mitigate against the socio-economic fallout that can come our way. In addition to that, we had many interactions with private sector groups, major financial institutions who came together and wanted to have a better understanding of where the country is going, where the economy is going, what are the business opportunities. So out of that, you would see a flow of different delegations coming from different parts of the world to Guyana to do, well, as you may say, in local terms, to do an on-ground inspection. So they're coming to do an evaluation, physical evaluation of what the opportunities are, not only in oil and gas. We have spoken to many of these investors, sophisticated investors, about the opportunities in food security, agriculture, the services industry, manufacturing, and of course, the diversification of our energy sector. So it has been a long week putting Guyana and the opportunities Guyana has and on the international stage, and the response has been enormous. We have had to manage time very carefully. We still have a lot of meetings and requests for bilaterals. We have a delegation that would leave Guyana, so that was invited by the president of Ghana. So be in Ghana. That delegation will be led by the vice president. That's an important engagement in Ghana to deal with the oil and gas sector, and also to see how we can have technology transfer and integration between the two countries. Then we have the president of Kenya, a delegation who will be coming to Guyana in a few weeks' time. Then, of course, we have about 6 or 7 other delegations that will be coming out of this week of engagement. We also had very, very good meetings with various representatives of the Middle East, from prime ministers to prince and so on. And they too are working on delegations to come to Guyana, and for us to have also foreign engagement with them in a wide cross-section of economic opportunity. From all of the meetings, it is clear that Guyana is an area of high focus. Our country is playing on a different stage. Our country is getting a different level of attention. Our country is being focused on. And as leaders, we have to ensure that we give clear clarity as to where the country is going. Strong leadership is required. We have to ensure that the country is built on foundation of democracy, stability. This is a key question from all those who engage in. They want to know that the country is built on a foundation of democracy, stability, the rule of law. From all the engagement, it is clear that persons were following the 5 months, and of course it raises questions about them in terms of the sustainability of a country when you have democracy threatened the way it was threatened. So we had to repair a lot of damage also. We had to answer a lot of questions in relation to that. But we are very happy that we had the opportunity to do so, and we were able to present Guyana as a strong emerging market, not only for oil and gas, but for the various opportunities that are coming ahead. Importantly, we also had the opportunity, and we'll have the opportunity all day today, to engage with members of the diaspora. As you know, this is an important part of our governance framework. We recognize the importance of the diaspora, and from all the meetings we have had with all the leaders, more than 12 leaders and large institutions, they too recognize the power of Guyana's diaspora. And the growth of our country would require far larger population than we have back home. And the first go-to population will be the population in the diaspora, for your skills and for you also to be involved in what is taking place. We have said it before that our local content policy would capture your energy, your resources, and your ability also to participate in the economy. So I want to stop here because, we only have an hour for this press conference, so we can take as many questions as possible. But I want to thank members of the media who've been following this very closely. I think Guyana has benefited tremendously, and we are very, very pleased with all the meetings we've had so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. As our President indicated, we only have an hour allotted for this press conference, and so now I will permit questions only on the President's statement, and we will begin first with our colleagues in the room. So who would like to ask your first question?
I bet Chronicle will be the first to ask a question.
Okay, the President has indicated he will respond to any question that you might have at this time.
I bet Chronicle.
Okay, great. So please utilize your emoji to, you can raise your hand that way, so I'll see you and identify you. As usual, when you're identified, please indicate where you're from and your name as well. Adam Harris, please go ahead, sir.
Adam.
Very good morning, everyone. Good morning to you, Mr. President. I haven't spoken to you in more than a year. I listened to your statement, and you talk about developments in oil and gas, and you talk about developments in climate change. Now, one of the issues has to do with the fact that ExxonMobil, they say, is impacting the environment by its flaring. Have you had any chance to talk with the operators of ExxonMobil about this in your climate change discussion, sir?
Mr. Harris, you know we have dealt with this question locally. Our credentials, as I have said in my United Nations address, on climate change would not change. Our activism on climate change would not change. And we are going to pursue an agenda that will see the development of our oil and gas sector without affecting our agenda on climate change. And that is what we took a lot of time to explain, and that is what we took a lot of time to engage other leaders on. And we'll be able to demonstrate to them that our plan for renewable energy, our plans in the area of standing forests, our aggression in supporting the world in coming to a decarbonized environment is as strong as it was in the past. So in terms of the flaring, we have engaged Exxon locally, and you know that there were changes. And I'll ask the Vice President, because he led on those discussions, he's explained this before, to once again go over this in relation to how we address the issue of flaring in Guyana.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the matter has been aired extensively in Guyana. On the particular issue raised about flaring and Exxon impacting the environment through flaring, we have demonstrated how we are going to approach this in Guyana. So we believe in a no flaring policy, but it's not just talk. Exxon had secured 2 permits for the LISA 1 and LISA 2 development, environmental permits. When we got into office in August of last year, we were faced with the situation of having to issue a license for Payara and an environmental permit for Payara. We examined the licenses, the environmental permits that were issued prior to us assuming office, and we found they were very deficient. And so we set about, in that short period of time, within 6 weeks, to fundamentally change the environmental issues surrounding the development of the gas fields. So in the new environmental permit that was issued, which is substantially different from Payara, the LISA 1 and LISA 2, we have now introduced a tax for flaring that was not there before. And we have now established that beyond the commissioning period, any of the FPSO, any flaring that is done will be taxed at $45 per metric ton of carbon emitted. Now, this very few countries in the world managing the oil and gas industry has such a tax that's based on the carbon emission. And there's a second component to the fine, that we will also receive payment for our share of the gas flare. So that was introduced in the permit. Secondly, we had a commitment now, not just a commitment, but a permit obligated Exxon to manage their waste from cradle to grave. Now, you recognize that in many countries that the waste is left by oil companies for the countries to handle after they're gone. So in the new environmental permit, Exxon would be responsible, the oil and gas operators, for handling all of that from cradle to grave management of waste, including through their subcontractors. The third component that we introduced in the prior work permit was to manage to treat wastewater up to a international standard before it's discharged or re-injected. I can go on, there are many other features. I will not do so to show the improvement in the prior license that was not there, the environmental permit that wasn't there prior to us assuming office. So we're dealing with the question of flaring.
Thank you, VP, for responding to that question. Our next question will come from Kurt. Kurt, you may ask your question now.
Kurt is from Newsroom.
Yes, so Kurt Campbell from the Newsroom. Good morning, Mr. President. You've spoken about vaccines and equitable distribution of same over the last few days on the international scene. However, at home, we have a situation where thousands of Guyanese are still awaiting the second dose, have been vaccinated with first dose, and are awaiting the second doses of the Sputnik V vaccine. I wanted to know what assurances can you give us at this time in relation to another shipment of the second doses of Sputnik V? And I have a second question that I will also ask now. The escapable businessman that was shot dead by the SWAT unit just over a week ago is being buried today. And there has been calls for an independent investigation into that incident. I wanted to know if you would support that.
Thank you very much, Kurt. First of all, let me say that we have, from the inception, dealing with vaccination and the pandemic, we have tried to, as you know, we have tried to get any vaccine. We tried Pfizer, we tried Moderna, you name the vaccine, we tried. We were able to get AstraZeneca, Sinopharm, and Sputnik in initial phase. Now, we have been engaging the suppliers, we've been engaging Russia to ensure that we have a steady supply. As of now, we're expecting, based on what was told to us, in the next 5 to 6 days, we're expecting a shipment from the suppliers. And this, trust me, every night we are on the phone directly dealing with this, talking to the ambassador of Russia, talking to Russia directly, talking to every stakeholder who can assist in this. And that is an important part of our agenda too. So within the next 7 days, we expect to have a shipment of the component 2 of Sputnik vaccine. Now, in relation to the issue in executable with the police and the businessman, I have already made it very clear that there would be an impartial investigation, that the police would have to act professionally. I think the Commissioner of Police would have already issued a statement that this matter is being dealt with by the Office of Professional Responsibility. I saw a news item yesterday where something has been sent to the Police Complaint Authority. So on my return, I'll have a full update on where this matter is. But as I said before, we are going to ensure, we're going to support, because the police has to do the professional work. We're going to support a thorough investigation, and let us await the outcome of the police investigation. Sometimes we move quickly to cast judgment or condemn the operations of the police. But let us see what comes out of the investigation. And on my return, this is one of the matters that, of course, will be priority on the agenda. I also, I think the Minister of Home Affairs would have engaged the family. On my return too, I would like to have that opportunity to engage with the family and the community. As you know, we have not shy away from any of these issues. Our philosophy is engagement, and I'll be engaging the family and the community also.
Pretty
Thank
sure.
you, Mr. President. I'll take, before I go up. Yes. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes. Roshan from Vaccination Radio. And I want to say thank you, Mr. President, for coming and visiting our Diaspora and addressing all our questions.
Blah, 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 blah,
Vice President is
Blah, 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 blah.
Mr. President, my question is, you've spoken about the vaccine and Sputnik vaccine. One of the things that we are being dealt with over here is the new variant of the virus that's coming out, and also new variations or additional vaccines that will be coming at the end of the year. I know lots of our folks in Guyana are still waiting on the second vaccine, the second shot, and there have been talks about possibly the third shot. Do you see Guyana possibly getting the second shot and third shot? That's one. And also, lots of media from the region, we have been getting a lot of questions about the Sputnik in Guyana, where a lot of folks who are traveling from Guyana into places like Canada, where Sputnik is not accepted. Being vaccine like Pfizer and Moderna. So is there a possibility of Guyanese who are traveling getting those kind of shots as well?
Well, we have addressed this matter with the UN Secretary General. I've addressed this matter in my address to the United Nations. We cannot polarize the world based on type of vaccine. And that is what is happening. And more, this is looking like it's changing its dimension. And more and more it's changing its dimension. And in changing its dimension, it's moving away from the health issue to business issues and all kinds of things. Because I've had discussion with many leaders in this visit, and they're very concerned. And they're very concerned and very hopeful that the matter does not now move from a health issue to a business issue also. And we're concerned about that. The developing world is concerned about that. Whilst we're talking about getting second shot and fourth shot, there's a high percentage of the world population that has gotten no vaccines at all. So we're working on this. We're working on this. We're working on this aggressively. The developing world is coming together to address this issue. Now we have been able in Guyana, and you will see reports coming out that to handle this pandemic in a different way. We have been able to bring the balance, keep the economy going. We have more than 67% of the population with first dose. We have close to 38-39% of the population with a second dose. We're working on bringing in the component 2. We expect, as I said, within the coming week, more of the second dose, the component 2 of Sputnik vaccine. We have made a decision that the initial phase of Pfizer that came into the country would go to children between from 12 to 18, and that is what we've been doing. That is the program we've been rolling out. Now, we're following the science. Whatever we are doing has to be backed by the science and supported by the science. The science said, any vaccine you get, you take it. When we first handling the pandemic, that was the first response. Whatever vaccine is there, take it so that we can get out of this pandemic. Now, the issue of the third dose, that is something we'll have to examine. There is no clarity on it. There is no clarity on how effective the third dose is. But if the third dose is necessary, especially dealing with the variations of the virus, then we have no hesitation in investing in the third dose too, because the life of our people matters.
Another
So if
minute.
the third dose is required by the end of the year, the government is prepared to adjust its financial programming to make the investment in the third dose for the safety of the people. As of now, we want Guyanese to take the vaccine. It minimizes the chances of hospitalization and further minimizes the chances of death. And whatever is necessary to keep the population safe, we are not going to spare that investment. We have made it very clear.
Yeah, another.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, please permit me to take questions from two of our representatives online. I'll go with News Talk Radio, after which we will take a question from Sharma from Canada. So, News Talk, please go ahead.
Dennis Chabral.
Good morning, Dennis Chabral, News Talk Radio, Areas. Mr. President, can you say what explanations have been given by the EPA about why there is no deeper and environmental impact assessment for the construction of the new Demerara Harbour Bridge, and to what extent you support those explanations? And sir, could you say what's your response to positions being taken by your detractors that the killing of Mr. Boston marks a return of extrajudicial killings, especially Afro-Guyanese under the PPP? And thirdly, what would you say were the major points to convince Ms. Karen Rodriguez to rescind her resignation?
Well, first of all, let me begin from the last question. I don't know about Ms. Karen Rodriguez resigning. I have never received a letter. I appoint ambassadors, so I don't know what is the question in relation to rescinding resignation. Ms. Karen Rodriguez has worked with us, and she's worked this week. She's been very active at the UN. For a matter of fact, a lot of the meetings she was actually involved in setting up those meetings. So I can't respond to something I'm unaware of. But I can tell you, as we speak, Ambassador Carlin is very actively involved in everything. Right now, she is sitting in the seat at the UN General Assembly because we're here. In terms of extrajudicial killing, let me be very clear on this. The propaganda that was used in the past about extrajudicial killing was dismantled. There was an entire publication, I think, in Starbuck News of every single name and the reasoning behind and the analysis of every single name. In that list, they did not have only Afro-Guyanese. So I'm not going to go back to a position with a false basis. This has been proven. The narrative that was created about extrajudicial killing was a disgusting narrative aimed at discrediting the PPCV government. It was a disgusting narrative aimed at discrediting the PPCV government. It has no basis. It was not factual. And we have dismantled it. And for a very long time, it did not come up after that publication, because the world saw that this was just used as a political tool, to discredit the PPP. Our vision in government is to bring this country together. Our vision in government is to develop Guyana in a peaceful environment, in an environment in which every Guyanese enjoys prosperity. So let me start from that. So you can't return to something that never existed. You can't, if you're starting from a foundation of lies, you can't return to the foundation of lies. So I'm not going to go beyond that in responding to this, because there's no basis to respond to it. It has been dismantled. It is a foundation of lies. And I'm not going to return to something that never existed in the first place. Thank you.
There is another question, Mr. President. What explanations have been given by the EPA about why there is no need for an environmental impact assessment?
Well, I don't think that you will be right to say the EPA said only the EPA justified and the reasoning. And let me say I have full confidence in the work of the EPA. So you have a Demerara Harbor Bridge there now that is a floating bridge that, of course, and this is in my own analysis that I'm giving you here now. Even without looking at the technical report, you have a Demerara Harbor Bridge that is a floating bridge that affects flow, that affects the seabed and everything. That is a big part of siltation and all of this. And you have a bridge now that will be a high-span bridge that does not have anything to do with the flow of water and so on. So it's actually an improvement. In my analysis, it's an improvement in terms from an environmental perspective, from a marine life perspective. It's an improvement from where we are to where we are going. But the Vice President would have also chaired the meeting in relation to some of these transformative projects recently and had an update on that. I don't know if you would like to add anything in relation to the bridge.
Well, I hear what the President has said. This is a replacement of an existing project, and the replacement of the bridge will have less of an impact on water flow and maritime organisms, etc. So the key thing is that the road they would have to submit a full-fledged environmental impact assessment for the road. But the bridge in itself, I suspect that the EPA still needs studies done, but has moved away from this position that you need a full-fledged environmental impact assessment for it. And what bothers me a lot is this newfound vigilance about environmental impact assessment. We've had an EPA that presided over issuing some of the worst work permits in the past. And we had nothing to say about it for LISA 1 and LISA 2. 25 years, environmental permit was given to Exxon when the law says only 5 years you should give an environmental permit for. So the EPA has credible explanation, Mr. President. I don't think we have to do that. They can go to the EPA website. This is a regulatory body, and they will explain their own procedures, and they're following the law. And the approach is consistent with the law as far as we're concerned. So this is a crucial matter for us moving forward.
Thank you, Vice President. Thank you, Mr. President. We have a question from the room, and after which I'll return to those joining us virtually.
So one of the most notable developments of Miami here is the development of the housing sector. Before seems to be developed in the region. However, there is very concerned that the land of housing.
We always have to make the decision on the optimal plan. We came from a position of serious shortage in housing stock. So we had to build from scratch. And we still have a shortage in housing stock. For matter of fact, if you go only by the application system, you have 450,000 applications in the system. Because we have been able to bring home ownership down to an average age maybe of 30. There was a time in the country when home ownership was not, people not able to aspire for home ownership. But now you currently every Ghanaian is looking at owning their own home, which is a good thing. And we want that to come forward. That is why we're focusing on young professionals, housing for young professionals and so on. So there is a competition of use, but that use has not affected our investments in agriculture or manufacturing. We're now looking at developing new areas, opening up new areas, specifically for agriculture to address the various issues that we face. So with the investment in the new highways from the market down the roads and in the hinterland and in the hinterland and so on, those investments will open up new opportunities for agriculture. Those investments will open up new land for agriculture. And that's an important part of our development agenda. That's an important part of the investments that we're making in developing our tourism and development. End of 2023 or 2024, we'll be producing all the corn and soy we require as input for feed. So we've also taken management on agriculture in the region. So, we have given up the agriculture in the region. So we're back as a lead for agriculture in the region security. We're working now not only on a national plan, but we're working on integrated security for agriculture, for the region. And that plan will see investment in agriculture in and around the region to reduce the agricultural import bill by 2025. So that is what we're aiming at by 2030, at least reduce it by 25%. And that's what I will be supplied by regional food. And this was a major discussion also, especially with the Greens, because the Greens, we're built to buy a lot of their food requirements, especially in the livestock. So Guyana is a natural market that can look at investing to meet the requirements of that market. And that market requires specific intervention, like the Halal Industry Certification Program. And so we are looking at all of that. We're developing a master plan for food security and export. One of the things, though, that is important in relation to food security is our vulnerability to climate change. The recent flooding, for example, took out maybe 80% of our production in terms of food. We had to spend a lot of money back to farmers to get them to go back to the crop. So those are the type of investments that we are making. Those are the type of balancing. So while the housing program is very strong and aggressive, it is not taking away from the agricultural sector or minimizing the agricultural sector. For a matter of fact, great attention is being paid now to the agricultural sector, and that is one of the areas that a lot of the resources from oil and gas will go to. A lot of resources from oil and gas will go to make it competitive and create great opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, we'll take another question from our colleague in the room, and then we will return to those joining us virtually. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Happy Friday. Lakshmi from Let's Talk with Lakshmi TV show and Let's Gap Tunes Radio. Mr. President, my question to you is, while we have so many people living in the diaspora in Brooklyn and Richmond Hill, there's no Go Invest office that someone can go to and perhaps learn how to invest in land or oil or whatever there may be in Guyana to invest in. When would you do something like that is part one of my question. And then the second part would be, would we ever see a Guyana Expo in New York City or Richmond Hill or even Brooklyn, again, where most Guyanese live at, to showcase all of the products in Guyana that one can invest in? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. To begin with, let me say that we do have a Go Invest office. and they have been very active. We just came back from Texas. They had a booth there, and it was one of the buzzing booths. We have a exhibition now in the Dubai Expo. For a matter of fact, later this month, Guyana will have a Guyana National Day in that expo. So we're investing a lot in the country profile, but there's natural traffic that is coming to Guyana too, as a result of oil and gas. But that traffic has allowed the country, the different opportunities of the country also to be exposed globally. So while initially the traffic was coming for oil and gas, people are also seeing other opportunities that exist in the country. So there are a lot of expos, and there are a lot of business seminars that will invest and other the private sector they're doing. What we need to do is to get people more engaged. There is now an American Guyana Chamber of Commerce, AmCham. There's a Canadian Guyana Chamber of Commerce. So the diaspora is very critically interlinked with the development that is taking place in Guyana. We're also investing heavily in the ICT and e-governance. So more and more you will see a lot of government services being offered online and a lot of access to information being generated online.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll take a question from
Our friends joining us virtually. Nishant Sharma, please go ahead and present your question to the President.
Mr. President, good morning. While I recognize that this is your first official visit as President of the Diaspora, what further plans you have, I guess, for in-person engagements considering the pandemic? And secondly, with respect to the Venezuela border crisis or controversy, is there other areas that you can explore in terms of advocating Guyana's position, considering the matters of lengthy court process? What other plans are there to continue to advocate for Guyana's position on the world stage? Thank you.
We had interference in the question there with the echo. What was it?
Nishant, can you answer your question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, the second part of the question, all right, was with respect to the Venezuela border controversy. Is there other areas in which you can explore, considering that it's before a lengthy court process? What other plans are there to continue to advocate Guyana's position on this controversy on the world stage?
Well, we have made it very clear that we are committed to the ICJ, and that is where the matter is. There is no other exploration or excursion. The ICJ is the determining court for this matter. They've already established jurisdiction, and what we are doing internationally is encouraging Venezuela to participate fully in the process and to say to the world that we are committed to the international rule of law and to the jurisdiction and to the ruling of the ICJ. So that is our position in relation to the border issues, and that is a position I would have reiterated in my presentation at the UN, the General Assembly, and also in meeting with global leaders. I just want to come back to the physical expo. I think you were also asking about the physical expo. Definitely post-pandemic, we will be looking at physical expo, not only in New York, but in many areas where we have large diaspora and great opportunity for business connection and development.
Office. That's
No. What we have here is an office within the consulate that deals with the coordination of investment and investment opportunity. And we have Mr. Joe here who is coordinating all of that.
but you do not have to have a physical office to get services from GoInvest, because you can just post. You don't have to trot over to a physical office here in Queens. You just go online. We've built the capacity in Ghana for them to respond to your questions. So all you have to do, particularly in this era with the pandemic, is to post your questions, seek your clarification on any issue that you want. labor laws, investment opportunities, etc., and more. So we're not thinking about physical offices, but more services to people.
So, and one thing that we'll be doing too, very soon, we have a team that will be going across New York, well, in Queens, Brooklyn, Atlanta, Florida, that to take the message of where Guyana is going and the opportunities that exist. So very soon you will see that team coming across. They have already started to plan that agenda.
So we have a question from a business over here at a large office.
Sorry for that. Sir.
No problem, sorry. We have a question from a business owner here in the U.S. Who migrated from Ghana, a Guyanese business owner, and want to
Invest in Guyana and blah blah. You know, it's a setup. Yeah, y'all know. Y'all know this is a setup.
Would that person look to bring his business into Guyana and invest in Guyana? Would that be through the consulate here, or would he go to Guyana to invest?
No, he can approach to invest directly, or he can go to the consulate for advice and support. But he is open. So all he has to do is get his business proposal and submit that business proposal. So an evaluation can be made and it can be pointed in the right direction. So that's all that is needed.
The reason why he asked the question was he visited Guyana and was unsuccessful in getting a kind of proposal. So he reached out to us.
But this is something that is very irksome, because sometimes people, if you have an office, you don't have to meet the head of the office every time because he's busy too. You deposit your proposal, say, I'm interested. You have staff there. You meet with the staff. People walk in. The foreigners can come and do this every day, and they're moving ahead with our projects.
Lies.
Their projects.
Lies.
They go through that mechanism.
Sarah Lynn said that there's
The
problems.
person not, because he doesn't meet the head of the office, not even deposit his proposal and say, here is what I want to do. Can you advise? And he has a substantial sum of money. But we have to get real too. Sometimes our people, they need personnel.
All right. Hey, guess what? I just had to stop that. You had to stop it. Stop it. It's gotten too much in terms of the hypocrisy and the lies. Lots of hypocrisy and lies upon lies. He lied about strong leadership is required. I don't know what strong leadership is required that he's talking about. I just don't know what exactly is he talking about. He spoke about the foundation of democracy. Now let's stick a pin there for a moment. What foundation and what democracy is he talking about? And when you look at most of the reporters in the room, you can tell everything is set up. It was staged, right? Albeit the first question came from Adam Harris, which stumbled Mr. Irfaan Ali. He couldn't answer it, so he had to seek attention, help from his puppet master. And so we see, and we have been hearing all of the lies about climate change. Nothing has done, absolutely nothing. The lies about Sputnik V vaccine. They can't even take care of the second dose. That thousands of people are still waiting for the second dose. Thousands upon thousands of people are still awaiting the second dose in Guyana. Irfaan Ali is concerned about the United States and other countries who are basically saying, look, these are the requirements before people enter into the country. The WHO has said, look, Sputnik V is not approved. And what the US is saying is that We need approved vaccines that have been approved by the World Health Organization, and that's all. So, Irfaan Ali, they have realized that they're in some serious problems, and here what the serious problems is. That one of the serious problems is that thousands of people have been vaccinated with the Sputnik V, and those thousands of people who have been vaccinated with the Sputnik V stands a chance of not being allowed to enter into the US and maybe Canada and other places, right? So when he talks about a third dose and 1,080 something, maybe 100,000+ of Guyanese are still awaiting the second dose of the Sputnik V. We can't get it. We can't hear from him at all on that particular issue. But yet he's now talking about, what is it? He's talking about the third dose. The third dose, and if you read between the lines, the third dose is basically another form of hustling. How do we hustle from the Guyanese people? How do we continue to rob the Guyanese people? Well, if you're now joining us, this is just a breakdown of his press conference. Lots of hypocrisy, lots of lies, indeed. And we'll break that down for you so you get a better understanding of what the truth really is. Well, climate change and all these things, we know they're lying about it. We spoke about the Sputnik V, and Irfaan Ali had the audacity to mention agriculture and housing. This is a guy who was in office when he was in office. When he was in office, he was the Minister of Housing. Yep, the Minister of Housing. And the Ministry of Housing had a heck of a lot of problems. He spoke about the fact that thousands of Guyanese want access to own their own homes. That is true. But for 23+ years, the PPP, when they were in office, thousands of Guyanese were deprived. The list of house applicants, house lot applicants were almost 60, 70,000. When the coalition got into office, they were able to reduce that. But I tell you what, when Irfaan Ali was the Minister of Housing, he didn't take care of the citizens of the country. He took care of himself. That's the little mini mansion that he put up. That is the pool house that he has and all these different things. And that property, that land he acquired through Nisel, right? Or through the Gaisuko land. And a lot of citizens, including what he is crying out now, that they want access to houses and so forth. He deprived those individuals of those very, very things. If you're now joining us again, this is why we carried the press conference of Irfaan Ali so that we can address these issues and we can expose the lies and the hypocrisy. And we see that so far in his trip, we see that everywhere he goes, Bharat Jagdeo is with him. Every single where he goes, Bharat Jagdeo is with him. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like for us to get in touch with our first individual to respond to Irfaan Ali as it pertains to the Sputnik V. We have with us Dr. Richard Van West Charles. Dr. Charles, good afternoon and welcome to 107.1 FM. Mr. Irfaan Ali just at a press conference said that without addressing the 80,000+ persons who are still awaiting the second dose of the Sputnik V, he's now talking about the possibility of a third shot of the Sputnik V. What is your take on that, sir?
That is utter nonsense. That is utter nonsense that's flying in the face of evidence. He needs to understand the science and the reason why WHO has not approved the vaccines. There are issues of data integrity. There are issues in how the trials have been conducted. There are issues in terms of the production of the vaccines. And that is why they have not proceeded to approve the vaccine. So, my understanding, even in Argentina, the factory that was supposed to be manufacturing has also put on hold the whole process. So So Dr. Ali doesn't understand the science in order for us to be kind to him, but you can't be wedded to a position knowing fully well and going forward to put our people at risk. What happened in Slovakia when they found these viruses in the vaccine should be replication incompetent? And what they found in Slovakia was the viruses were actually replicating. Now that type of scenario is unacceptable, placing our people's lives at risk. And the other thing is where these things are going to be pushed in communities in which people are not empowered to ask the questions and demand the information so that they can decide whether to accept or not. No, that is nonsense. That is really out of kilter with good public health practice.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Van West Charles. Mr. Irfaan Ali also said that from the beginning, since they assumed office, August 2nd, 2020, they have been listening to the science. And the science said that whatever vaccines are available, people should use it. What is your take on that particular statement?
Well, anybody who's thinking logically, why then is there a system within the United Nations Specialized Agency of approval? Why are the countries that belong to the agency, most of them looking at this issue? And look at the developed countries in terms of their relationship with WHO and relying on the final decisions of WHO. So Guyana doesn't have any virological laboratories, minimal if any viral specialists, including the diaspora. So what is he talking about? He's being guided by the science.
Are you at all concerned about the message that he is sending overseas, particularly part of his speech to the United Nations General Assembly, as it pertains to other countries' policies in admitting persons from Guyana with only vaccines that have been approved by the World Health Organization? Of course, Mr. Irfaan Ali is he's concerned because Sputnik V is not included. What is your take on his pitch on that?
Right. Those countries are being guided by the science and they are making the right decisions with respect to looking at the transmission in their respective countries. The work with respect to Sputnik V is uncompleted, is not completed by the specialized agency of the United Nations, which is the World Health Organization. When that is completed, then everything goes. Why would Brazil be putting conditionalities on its use in terms of the limited amount of and Brazil has moved now to produce AstraZeneca. You know, so it clearly shows that I don't know which science he's being guided by. I know the countries that are making those decisions are making rational decisions based on the science and the analysis.
Quickly before you go, Dr. Van West Charles, and I thank you so much for taking time out to be with us this afternoon. Are you concerned, again, a question you've been answering all along, that the 80,000+ persons who are awaiting this second dose of the Sputnik V, are you concerned for those individuals' health?
Well, of course, because especially with the high probability that the variants are circulating in Guyana, and this is another issue why the government has not been able to say to the country which variants are circulating in the country and which variants are circulating in which regions of the country. This is an answer that should be, this is a question that should be answered. They should be able to go and send samples for us to have a sense of what is happening with respect to the circulation of variants in the country. Don't give us willy-nilly answers, well, most likely, and all of that nonsense.
All right, Dr. Richard Van Charles, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to speak of concerning the vaccine quickly before you go?
Yes, they need to understand. Look, there's a serious economic impact on the country with respect to COVID. They need to understand the level of mistrust that exists, which is a significant contributory factor to the vaccine hesitancy in the country. More and more people now are going to be informed because they are receiving information about the issues with respect to this country. And therefore, the vaccine hesitancy is going to increase. And as I said earlier on your program some time ago, that the same factors will affect any issues of boosters, especially now for elderly people. They've come out and confirmed that people for 80, 70, 80, especially those with Pfizer and Moderna. So, the fact that this mistrust is interfering with the whole approach with the vaccinations, they need to stop going like a bull in a china shop, because they're not going to have the results, and we're going to have greater economic downturn in the country.
We'll stop at that note.
Rocket science. This is just for people to listen.
Yeah, sorry about that, Dr. Richard Van Charles. We thank you so much for your time, sir. I know you said you're rushing into another meeting, but I'm thankful that you gave us a couple of minutes of your time. Dr. Richard Van Charles, thank you, sir. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you, sir. All right, Dr. Richard Van Charles there for you guys, and you've heard exactly what is happening, right? And I don't know. Jack Dale and Irfaan Ali, they thought that they would have been able to brainwash you guys, and hence our reason for this quick and rapid response. We have with us on the line, he is preparing to attend the funeral of Mr. Boston out there in Essequibo. Mr. Ganesh Mahipal is with us. Honorable MP, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm great, can't come.
I'm actually on a very busy schedule today, but I had to stop to take this call.
Yes, and we appreciate the fact that you have stopped to take this call. At a press conference probably still going on, Mr. Irfaan Ali spoke about the rule of law, and all of these things have returned to Guyana, democracy and the rule of law. It's coincidental that you are heading to a funeral, Mr. Boston, who was murdered by a SWAT team, a breakdown of the rule of law. We have seen lots of extrajudicial killings and so forth. Your take on his brazenness to talk about the restoration of the rule of law and democracy?
Well, first of all, I did not listen to his speech, and I had no intentions of doing so, because I felt like every time I listened to this gentleman, like I'm losing some brain cells. But notwithstanding that, he should not be the one that speaks to the return of rule of law when we are currently living in a country where there is no regard nor respect for the rule of law, where there is no regard and respect for democracy and inclusivity and togetherness. There is absolutely none. And it just cements the whole position that the coalition held to a while back, and that is Irfaan Ali goes all over the place and says one thing, and he practices the other. He has no control over his ministers and his installed ministers and so on. He has no control over them. They're doing as they please, and they seem not to understand his language. But I believe it's deliberate on the part of Irfaan trying to paint a picture as though he's this great leader, and he's trying to paint a picture as though he believes in inclusivity and togetherness. But the practice on the ground, what we see with the naked eyes, totally different, and it's hypocritical, it's duplicitous, it's wicked on the part of him saying those things, when we all know that what is happening in Guyana is totally different. If we're to take into account the local democracy and Article 13 of our Constitution that speaks to inclusivity, it is required of central government to consult when you are going to establish a budget for the benefit of all. And we have a clear case in Region 4 where the installed REO that is appointed by the Irfaan Ali's administration is deliberately trying to delete the regional councillors, including the regional chairman, who's the political head of that region. We have many other instances of harassment from state organs, such as the Guyana Police Force. You made mention about the young man that was assassinated, basically, and the police came up with nothing. There are some other families that suffered a similar fate on the Essequibo coast, but not by having anyone murdered, but they were traumatized also by the very team that murdered that young man. And we have other things. If we look at the distribution of these cash grants, how they're being done, and the special criteria that is used for one section of people and a different section of people is treated differently. Then you have the protest actions that are ongoing, where nurses and doctors and this whole vaccination misunderstanding. And then you have the sugar workers. They were protesting too, but the sugar workers, they met a deal with the sugar workers very quickly. But they seem to not want to make a deal with the teachers. And what the teachers are facing, what the public servants are facing, increased cost of living, no consideration for tax, for salary increase or reduction in taxes. Irfaan Ali says one thing and his administration does the other. There are a set of hypocrites. They are duplicitous. They are wicked. They are not the right set of people for this country. They have us more divided than we have ever been, and they speak of oneness openly, and they practice great double standard. A wicked set of people. That is my comment.
All right, Mr. Ganesh Mahipal, the Honorable MP, is on his way to attend the funeral of Orrin Boston, who was slaughtered by members of the SWAT team. Still no answer. Have a safe trip, sir, and give my regards to the family members of Mr. Boston. Thank you for your time, Honorable MP.
Thank you very much, Mark, and good afternoon to you and your viewers.
Thank you, sir. All right, the Honorable MP, Ganesh Mahipal, telling us what's happening there as it pertains to his response to the hypocrisy we have heard thus far from those guys sitting there at that press conference, Irfaan Ali. What is it? It's 10 minutes after 12 o'clock. We will try to get a response from Mr. Aubrey Norton, who is with us. Mr. Norton, good afternoon, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Norton.
Good afternoon.
Can you and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. At a press conference just concluded, I believe, Irfaan Ali said, in terms of the restoration of the foundation of democracy and the rule of law, he's talking about since they have been installed, August 2nd, 2020, foundation of democracy, rule of law. Your response to him, please, sir.
Well, first of all, Irfaan Ali, the people are known for saying things that aren't true. All and sundry in this world saw a recount in Guyana in which all the evidence came out of the ballot boxes that the PPP was involved in fraud, that they were installed by the ABCE countries based on fraudulent votes. And therefore, I don't think anyone who knows the reality will bother about what Irfaan Ali says. The next thing I want to say is that you cannot be racist and democratic at the same time. And clearly, the People's Progressive Party is a racist party. No wonder he couldn't say reparation, because it was hypocrisy. He knows full well they voted against African Guyanese getting their ancestral lands in the Parliament of Guyana. He knows full well that they were taking away African Guyanese property that were obtained legally on the APNU AFC, he knows full well that when it came to the COVID relief, that they declared discriminatory based on race and political grounds, discriminating against Amerindians and Indo-Guyanese who they perceive to be APNU AFC. So Irfaan Ali has no moral right to speak about anything. And if one accepts from his performance at the UN his reality, then one will know that he's not a doctor. He's not a doctor by any stretch of imagination. And it probably confirms the fact that the allegation, rather, that his qualifications are fraudulent. Which person with a doctorate, which person that has, first of all, a proper first degree, will not know how to pronounce basic words? I think any common entrance child know the word is certainty. So I just think he's an embarrassment. He has no relationship to truth. And because of their proclivity for fraud, he has embarrassed Guyana. That is the reality. So he has no moral base to talk about racial equality. He has no moral base to talk generally.
All right, we just have another quick question, or maybe two for you. He spoke about the rule of law. As we speak, the family members of Mr. Orrin Boston are preparing to bury him. He was murdered by members of the SWAT team. Another hypocrisy coming there from Mr. Irfaan Ali. What rule of law is he talking about?
Well, again, he has no moral right to speak about rule of law. If the law had prevailed, he would have been before the courts because he was charged for involvement in fraud. And what they did is to use the law to just remove the charges rather than allow the charges to go through and let the court determine. As it relates to the execution of Orrin Boston, what you're seeing is a return of the PPP's approach of extrajudicial killings of African Guyanese and people who oppose them. While the PNU AFC was in government, the police force was being returned to professionalism. Then came the PPP in August of last year, and you were seeing a return to executions, you're seeing a return to extrajudicial killing, and let us assume they had an interest. Why did they attempt to cover up? They gave all kind of explanation before the truth came out that the man was executed in his bed next to his wife. So you're dealing with a highly mendacious group of people headed by Barajak Deone and Irfaan Ali.
Quickly, Mr. Aubrey Norton, before you go, are you surprised this sudden love affairs with him and Ghana and Kenya and so forth? Isn't it coincidental?
Well, I don't think it's a love affair. I think what has happened is that because they are on the back foot for racial discrimination here in Guyana, because all the evidence is leading in the direction of them being discriminatory, I think they are going and talking to African leaders with the hope of convincing them that they are not racist. But we are in contact with many of the African leaders, and we know for a fact that the truth will be told to them and that they will be exposed. So I think it's sad to hide the fact that they are racist and they are implementing racist policies.
That's exactly what it is. Mr. Aubrey Norton, is there anything else? I know you're busy. You probably didn't watch the press conference, but is there any other quick burning issue that you want to address before you go, sir?
I just want to say that while they're doing all of this nonsense, Guyanese are dying as a result of the mismanagement of COVID. And that is a critical issue that needs to be addressed, because clearly the health minister is incompetent. Clearly they are not dealing with COVID in the way it should be dealt with, including all the stakeholders. And therefore the PPP has become a security threat to us because of the amount of people that are dying as a result of their incompetence and inadequacies.
That's just what it is. Mr. Aubrey Norton, thank you so much for your time. God bless.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Good, you're welcome. All right. Aubrey Norton there for you guys, telling it like it is, what is happening, and the hypocrisy coming out of that press conference by Irfaan Ali and his puppet master, Bharat Jack Deer. There are other issues they spoke about in terms of agriculture. We know that it has been a wreck for it has been a wreck for 23 years, drainage and irrigation and all these different things. They never took care of that at all. And so another form of the hypocrisy coming from Irfaan Ali. Talk to the rice farmers, talk to the folks out on the quarantine, go into Black Bush Polder, talk to those folks there, and you'll get a better understanding as to what really has happened to the agricultural sector. They just didn't give a damn about the people. That is a fact. And so we are not surprised that Irfaan Ali would sit there at that press conference and create this impression as though things are all hunky-dory and that they believe in the rule of law and that they believe in democracy and all these different things. And not true at all. And that is why we have this swift response to deal with these issues, to address it, and to let you folks know the hypocrisy that is being dealt with here by the installed regime. Those of you, if you're now joining us, we were trying to get a quick comment from a former minister, the former Minister of Housing, now a member of Parliament, the Honorable Annette Ferguson. We're trying to set this record straight as it pertained to housing. There were thousands, over 50,000+ of house lots, applicants, that the PPP never dealt with. Irfaan Ali was the Minister of Housing, and you don't want to know his track record in terms of how he treated persons who went to visit the Ministry of Housing. You don't want to hear about that track record. And so it breaks my heart to hear Irfaan Ali talks now about being concerned about citizens owning a piece of land and so forth and so on. And this is the same guy, as I've said earlier, as soon as he became the Minister of Housing, look what happened. Look what happened. So all these guys take care of themselves. Look at his pool house, so to speak, his pool house. You know, they got lots of money. They're rich. They're filthy rich. All these things they can afford. And he got that as soon as he became the Minister of Housing, right? That's exactly what he got when he became the Minister of Housing. We'll try to get to Miss Annette Ferguson, former Minister of Housing, for her quick comment. Minister Ferguson, I know we didn't forewarn you about this, but you're actually live on air with us. We just wanted a quick comment from you as it pertains to Irfaan Ali. Irfaan Ali has praised the PPP's administration, especially the 1 year since they've been in there installed, the housing sector. For 23 years after you guys took over, the housing sector was in a mess until you folks repaired it. Give a quick breakdown as to the mess you met when you got there.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. I'm really surprised that, about this quick interview, but nevertheless, proffer some responses to the questions that you would ask. You're absolutely correct, Mark. And even before I answer your question, know that yes, I must let you and your listeners know that I served for a short period at the housing ministry. But what I can say here is that my predecessors, when we took government in May of 2015, the housing sector was indeed in a mess. The People's Progressive Party Civic, they constructed, I think it was the 1,000 homes project out in Perseverance there on the east bank of Demerara. And Mark, we, the APNU AFC government, had to spend billions of dollars in order to rectify many of the defects on those houses. So
for him to applaud the housing sector, I think, Irfaan Ali is still living in a dream world. That's one. Two is that many of the housing schemes, you take a walk in Diamond, see what is happening. Bad roads, no proper drainage, no electricity. Take a walk and see what is happening in Eccles. The same thing. Look what is happening in Parfait, Harmony. The same thing. Many of these housing schemes that I've just alluded to, these schemes were actually these schemes were actually constructed under the People's Progressive Party Civic. So for him to applaud, or me to say it to the world that the People's Progressive Party Civic had a better housing policy than the APNU AFC, it is far from the truth. I want you, Mark.
Sorry, we just got a slight break of transmission there from the Honorable MP Annette Ferguson.
For an interview, but the Wi-Fi seems to be giving some challenges.
Yeah, that's okay, but we thank you so much. We thank you so much for your time. The people got the message in terms of the hypocrisy. We know that when you guys got there in that Ministry of Housing, the internet access to have persons do their applications via online services and so forth, it never happened for the 23 years the PPP was there for. I don't know. Anything else quickly before we go? I know it's an impromptu interview to respond to what the lies of Irfaan Ali and Barra Jack there. Anything else quickly? All right, sorry about that. We lost the Honorable MP there. Bad Wi-Fi. Seems as though things were getting better under the coalition as it pertains to Wi-Fi and so forth. I don't know. Let me take a quick break, and we will be back with the conclusion. But I want to get in touch with someone else for a quick response. Do give us a quick minute or so. We'll be right back.
That little ditty we used to torment our teachers with when we were kids goes something like this: onward, upward, Mary had a go. Day by day she tied it to a rope, till at length they got past the rope, and Miss Mary had to run behind it. We had a lot of fun with that, but do you actually know how beautiful these words are? Here's the Song of Guyana's Children by W. Hawley Bryant. Born in the land of the mighty Roraima, land of great rivers and far-stretching sea, so like the mountains, the sea, and the river, great, wide, and deep in our lives would we be. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana sons and daughters can be. Born in the land of Kaijur, shining splendor.
All right, welcome back. We are not done yet. Let us go to another person we have on the phone here, the Honorable Member of Parliament and the former Minister of Home Affairs or National Security in Guyana, Comrade Ramjatan. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mark, and how are things?
I'm great, thank you, and glad that you're in the neck of the woods. Maybe we should meet up for coffee or bagel or mobby or something.
Yes, we should. I'm enjoying a couple of days in New York with family members.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to avoid and evade you But somehow, Mark is hard to evade.
Kemraj, once you're with your family, I know a lot of your family members as well, so you can't evade me once you're around them. Mr. Ramjatan, quickly, at a press conference that concluded maybe a couple minutes ago, Mr. Irfaan Ali said that, and he spoke boldly about the foundation of democracy under the PPPs, probably talking about from August 2nd to now, and the restoration of the rule of law. Your take on that, sir?
He is, I hold that with tremendous, and this is the word, and this is how it's pronounced, uncertainty, if you understand what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah.
He is absolutely wrong about rule of law and its reestablishment in Guyana. We in the Alliance for Change, AP and new government had done far greater things in relation to rule of law, good governance. This is a problem that Irfaan has because, of course, he's not his own man, and so he cannot be his own mind. He has to have Bharat Jagdeo behind him. And to begin with, that alone is unconstitutional and unconventional. Once you have two-term limits for a president, you should not have had a Bharat Jagdeo as a vice president and chief advisor and all of that. It shows that he's serving his two-term in accordance with the against the grain, of the Constitution. That's the very first thing to begin with. The other thing is that Irfaan Ali is very much one who loves to do wrong things, in the sense like when he ordered the Police Service Commission's chief to put up certain promotions and so on. That is not good governance, neither the rule of law. There have been very many things that have happened, which is proving that they are not doing very well in the sugar estate areas, in the public service, and even in Parliament, what the PPP government has done. And all have already been enumerated largely to prove that they feel that only when you win an election, that is democracy. Democracy means lots more than that. It means that after that win or installation, you got to do everything good for the next 5 years. Not only as they feel that we win them and that's it. You do everything. Going and take away the good reputation of the EPA, send home Vince Adams, put in your instrument there that is now going to take calls from the former president and give the environmental authorization and this and that to everybody, or bypass those authorizations and scrutiny and all of that. That is terrible. We studied hard to implement an Environmental Protection Act. And then you go and study hard and implement a Forestry Amendment Act for the mangroves. And then you go and break all up simply because you want friend and family to get the contracts and this and that. And so you violate everything. We are having huge problems. And because of those violations, a lot of things have gone wrong. And the society itself is going wrong. That is why policy can't be made properly, to the extent now that this COVID is going to kill so many Guyanese. All because it is their authoritarian commandist style, which is contrary to the rule of law and good governance.
Thank you so much. Quickly, before we go, though, Mr. Ramjatan, another comment made by Mr. Irfaan Ali is that they've had to, as of August 2nd, to start to repair the damage done to the foundation of democracy and rule of law. Your take on that?
Well, again, this fellow who can't show me his first degree and how he managed to get the second and so on, he will come up with these kinds of things. And they know that their propaganda is effective, especially in the East Indian communities of Guyana. You there?
Yes, we're listening to you, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. They're very effective in Guyana, and so they're going to take their eyes and pass everybody to fool them now and to create this fictional narrative that is only they who know about the foundations of democracy and the foundations of stability and so on. That's not true. Guyana right now is on the edge. I was Public Security Minister, and indeed we brought sanity back to a period of time, especially that 5 months, to ensure that there was stability. And one would have thought that they would have carried on to ensure that all Guyanese are happy. But we see now only a certain section is happy. And even within certain other areas, we notice too only their friends and family getting the contracts. That is not creating the stable society we want. Guyana is very much next to an explosive scenario. And he obviously do not understand the nature of the foundations of a democracy. They were never schooled in it. They were always with this democratic centralism and all of that. They know nothing about liberal democracy, especially he and his boss, Barajagdeo.
All right, on that note, we thank you so much. We don't want to interrupt your good quality time with the family, but please do, Mr. Ramjatan, give my regards to Dharmo, Pradeep, and everybody else there. Hopefully we'll meet up.
I will, certainly.
Thank you so much, sir. Good. All right, the Honorable Member of Parliament there, Mr. Kemraj Ramjatan. I must apologize for that bad connection with the Member of Parliament, Annette Ferguson. With that, we will now, I'm being signaled by our technical operator, Lemon, that we cannot be connected back with Miss Annette Ferguson, so we'll call it a day with her. But this evening, we are going to be on with our special guest, the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, Amanza Walton Desir, Member of Parliament, Amanza Walton Desir. She will be on with us on Straight Up this evening. But for now, thank you all so much. We just had to counter that bit of hypocrisy coming out the mouths of these two individuals, two pea in a pod, right? Two pea in a barrel, actually. But we want to thank Mr. Aubrey Norton. We want to thank Dr. Van West Charles, and we want to thank Mr. Ramjatan, Kemraj Ramjatan, and Annette Ferguson for their few minutes. How can we forget Mr. Ganesh Mahipal as well? But for now, until this evening, 9 o'clock this evening, we are going to have as our guest Miss Amanza Walton Desir, the Honorable Member of Parliament. For now, thank you all so much, and we're glad that we put those bad messages, those fake news from Irfaan Ali and Barajagdeo to rest almost immediately, because Guyana is in a great state of mess and severe uncertainty. Uncertainty. That is according to Irfaan Ali. New word in the dictionary, uncertainty. I love you guys. See you this evening. Bye-bye.
A little ditty we used to torment our teachers with when we were kids goes something like this. Onward, upward, Mary had a go. Day by day she tied it to a rope, till at length they got past the rope, and Miss Mary had to run behind it. We had a lot of fun with that, but do you actually know how beautiful these words are? Here's the Song of Guyana's Children by W. Hawley Bryant. Born in the land of the mighty Roraima, land of great rivers and far-stretching sea, so like the mountains, the sea and the river, great, wide and deep in our lives would we be. Onward, upward may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana sons and daughters can be. Born in the land of Kaijur, shining splendor, land of the palm tree, the croton and fern, we would possess all the virtues and graces, we all the glory of goodness would learn. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana sons and daughters can